Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Bill Polonsky. I'm a diabetes psychologist. I've been working in this field for about 30 years. I'm also president and co-founder of the Behavioral Diabetes Institute, and I'm also a certified diabetes clinical and education specialist. And we're here for one particular reason. It has to do with the fact that I bet all of you have had the experience of having friends or family say things to you that were kind of annoying, in fact, probably pretty stupid. So we know this is extremely common. We know this happens at home, at work, at parties. And since it's holiday time, we thought we'd really focus on what it might be like during the holidays. So we're going to do that tonight. So how we're going to do that is we're going to have, first of all, Jeremy and Steve. They are going to take on the role here at our holiday dinner. They're going to try and act like they have diabetes. And that's going to be really difficult for them, but I'm hoping they can pull it off. And then we also have our TCOYD support folks as well. We have Brittany and Todd, who are going to be, well, who they are, people who don't have diabetes, but playing their role and perhaps being a little more annoying than they might typically be in real life, especially around Jeremy and Steve. We'll have to see about that. So they're going to be joining us for a moment for the holiday dinner, and we'll see what happens. Now, if you have friends or family member around who don't have diabetes, this is the time to go grab them now, because really what we want to do, what we're going to focus on, really is for them as we begin to think about how do you really hang out with folks with diabetes and treat them in a responsible and, appropriate manner. So, well, let's have dinner.
Hey Bill, how's it going?
Hey guys.
Hey,
Jeremy.
Bill.
Hey Todd.
Hi, Jeremy.
Bill. Hey Brittany.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Wow, this looks great.
How long have you been sitting there, Bill? This looks so good.
Yeah,
This is great. We're all
I'm
here.
just going to do a quick check of my blood sugar before
Oh,
we
Steve,
eat.
do you have to do that right here? I mean, we're all about to start eating.
Okay, freeze. Now, I forgot to mention, I do have this superpower, so I can freeze them all anytime I want, because when you want to use these experiences, there's a chance to talk about what's going on a bit. So again, many of you have had the experience, like you've just heard from Brittany, where, hey man, you're just sitting around, you want to just check your blood sugar, see if you're okay, and you have someone who might say something creepy to you, like as creepy as Brittany just was, saying, ew, that's so gross, we're about to eat. Let's face it, that's really annoying. I mean, if you're living every day with diabetes, it's not like it's fun to be checking your blood sugars anyway. And here you are trying to act in a responsible manner, as Steve was, because he's about to eat. And having these, well, pretty unhelpful comments is annoying, right? Really annoying. So the solution is really, and we're going to be talking about this more, how do we encourage you and your loved ones just to have a conversation about this, not in the middle of a holiday dinner, but at a dispassionate moment to talk about how do you want your family and friends to act around you when you're dealing with diabetes in the moment? How do you, when you don't want them to freak out or get upset with you? What do you need? And again, everybody's going to be unique, although we can talk about broad principles of diabetes etiquette, which we'll get to. But hey, these guys are starving, so let's, unfreeze.
All right.
Oh, hey, Brittany, can I pour you a glass of wine?
Yes, please.
Ooh. Wow. That looks good. Yes, please. Yeah.
Delicious.
Todd, can I have some wine?
Oh, I'm sorry. I assumed you couldn't have any because of your diabetes.
Freeze. Well, here we go again. Boy, another extremely annoying moment. Now, what's different about this is I think what we saw Todd do was actually trying to be helpful. He's thinking, how do I be respectful and responsible around people with diabetes who I care about? But for the person with diabetes, and I think you probably saw it in Steve and Jeremy's faces, this is not cool at all. And really, the problem is when the person with diabetes, although they're trying to be helpful, really starts mind reading, really says, I think what might be the best thing for me to do is X. And they're trying. But you don't have to mind read. You can ask. So again, the solution is going to be, how do we encourage you and your loved ones with diabetes to just find a quiet moment and have a conversation about what's the best way for Todd to react in situations like this? To what degree should he be involved? And should he be taking charge of who should be allowed to have wine or not? And what is the role of everybody else as well? So that's the possibility when we think about having conversations that really matter. Let's carry on. Unfreeze.
So sweet. How's
So
work
what's been going on lately?
Work's been awesome.
Not much. Just so
I'm really
glad to
impressed
be
with all the
here
work
and
you're
hang
doing
out
with
with
social
What
everybody.
is that sound?
Oh, sorry, everybody. It must be my CGM. Sorry.
And what's your blood sugar at?
Well, Brittany, actually, I'm a little low.
Oh my God, are you gonna be okay?
Yeah.
You guys, put your glasses down. Jeremy, what can I get you?
No,
Glucagon, insulin, apple juice? Maybe you should go lie down.
Freeze. Oh, boy, another annoying event that I'm sure many of you have experienced. Hopefully not around holiday dinner, but we know this happens way too often. And you can see Brittany means well. She really wants to be of help. But, we're dealing with an adult with diabetes here who knows what to do, who doesn't need to be asked something private like, what is your blood sugar? That's really none of Brittany's business, to tell you the truth. But we see that, again, she's trying to figure out how to help. So the solution becomes the same. Jeremy's annoyed, Brittany's freaked out. We have to find ways, again, quiet moments to have a conversation about how do you treat someone with diabetes in a respectful manner, in a way that says, I know you got this. I'd like to be of help. I need to know how I can be of help as opposed to just assuming I know what to do. That's the biggest mistake we saw here. Let's keep going. Unfreeze.
All right, potatoes.
Can you give me some mashed potatoes, please?
Okay.
Freeze. Now, let's talk about what just happened here. Again, Todd was trying to be helpful. He's not doing it in a particularly intelligent way for one particular reason. He's dealing with adults, presumably responsible adults. So why not just give them exactly the same amount that he's provided himself with, or ask the person, how much would you like? Is this the right amount? Would you like more? Again, it's a simple idea. Why not just treat these people just like they're normal human beings who have their own ability to determine how much they would want to consume or not? This is the biggest mistake we see, where a caring friend or family member is thinking, well, I'm just trying to help. But you don't help by presuming that the person with diabetes, especially if they're a grown-up, don't know what to do on their own. You want to know? You need to ask. Unfreeze.
My gosh, everything is so good, especially those cranberries. Can I have some more of those, Brittany?
Jeremy, are you sure you want any more of these? I think there's like a ton of sugar in them.
Yeah, there's a crap ton of sugar in them, Brittany, and I still want them. So can you please give them to me?
Sounds like somebody's blood sugar's a little low.
Freeze. Oh boy, you can tell this holiday dinner is getting a little hotter now, isn't it? And for similar reasons as we've seen before. Again, Brittany, who's, I think, trying to be helpful, is not really treating poor Jeremy like a grown-up who's had diabetes for, quite a while now and probably knows exactly what he needs to do and doesn't need to be policed or watched or limited in any way. He'll figure out how much he needs. So again, despite the fact that she means well, we can see why things like this at holiday functions can be a bit problematic. And for those of you who don't have diabetes, it's not much fun for any of us to have comments made about, well, haven't you had enough food? Looks like you've gained enough weight now. I mean, come on, it's the holidays, if nothing else. This is the worst time to be doing things like this. So take that in, and again, think about the importance of having a conversation to find out what each person needs. There's no reason to have things get so heated. It's just not necessary. Now, we've talked a lot about Brittany, but let's also now focus on Jeremy. You saw he was about ready to chuck that roll right at her. And you know what? I don't blame him. He was feeling pretty hot and pretty uncomfortable over what's happening. And all we can hope for is the next time, and we probably shouldn't recommend anybody do this in the middle of a holiday dinner, but at some time soon, I'm hoping Jeremy is going to take Brittany aside and be able to say, look, this is exactly how I would hope you would respond and treat me when we're in public, when we're at dinners, and that I know you care. But, if I'm asking for cranberry sauce, give me the damn cranberry sauce. Again, it's this idea that I want to be treated like I'm an adult. And that I'm pretty sure if we could just give them a quiet moment to talk together, let Jeremy explain what his unhappiness about this was, what was uncomfortable about it, of this interaction, I bet you Brittany, who does care, is more likely to respond. So let's hope they get a chance to do that really soon. So let's keep going. Unfreeze.
Oh, sounds good.
Hey everyone.
Cranberry sauce.
Sorry I'm late.
Hey, Eric.
Hey there.
Hey, guys. This is my cousin Eric.
Hey there. Nice to meet you all.
This is Todd. He works at UCSD.
Hi.
This is Jeremy, and this is Steve. They both have diabetes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Actually, my uncle, he had diabetes. He had like all kinds of problems. He had like crazy things with his eyes. He was on dialysis for a really long time. I think he had to have one of his feet amputated too. But anyway, yeah, he died like 6 months ago or something. But gosh, this food looks really good.
Freeze. Oh boy. This is also something that's very common. Boy, talk about ruining a meal. Nothing like Eric coming in and announcing about his coincidental experience with his relative who had diabetes and ran into all sorts of problems. And again, for those of you who are watching this right now have diabetes, you know what a bummer this is to hear this kind of stuff. So think about this. This is not anything to bring up at any time. It's just not that helpful. Consider the audience, right? Again, think about what it's like to be told, as you heard, that Steve and Jeremy be identified as, oh, this person has diabetes. Whereas Todd, he's just a regular person. And if there's one rule we know about etiquette, this is something we're going to have to explain to Brittany, is that it's not your job to inform whoever's just arrived that Steve and Jeremy have diabetes. It's actually none of Eric's business. So that's an important thing that I'm hoping both Jeremy and Steve will, again, talk with Brittany about afterwards. Now remember, as I've said before, she means well. She's just trying to be helpful, but it's helpfulness gone wrong, and that's the concern. Dinner's almost over. Time for the last scene. Unfreeze.
All right. Who is ready for dessert?
Oh, me. Me.
Woo.
Yes.
Well, I've got some homemade apple pie.
Wow.
I've
That's
got
good.
some pumpkin pie with whipped cream I made from scratch. I
Awesome.
didn't forget about Steve and Jeremy. So you get some sugar-free hard candy.
Freeze. Oh boy. Now Todd, again, well-intentioned, doesn't mean to be a complete idiot. But here's the problem. And I've been there as well. I still remember the first time I ever had dinner with a fellow who had type 1 diabetes, somebody I'd known for a while, but the subject had never come up. We never really had talked about it. And I remember ordering dessert thinking, is this annoying? Am I being rude? Is this something I should share? I didn't know. And of course, the solution for me, thank goodness, was to actually have a conversation with him about it and saying, what do I do in a situation like this? What would be best for you? And it was having that chat really was so important. But until I voiced it, I was very uncomfortable. So I can kind of understand a little bit of what Todd's well-intentioned efforts are all about. So, but it doesn't make it easy for Steve or for Jeremy, because bottom line is, it's kind of insulting. So I would encourage Todd to, well, just offer what he has, make it available for everybody, and not go out of his way to offer sugar-free hard candies for these guys. But again, he can do what I did. He could take a time, again, not in the middle of dinner, to maybe ask them, is this appropriate? I'm kind of uncomfortable. Am I insulting you by bringing out pies? Is this something we should even talk about? But again, just use your mouth and ask the question. And don't assume you really know what to do. It's having that chat with each other that really just makes all the difference in the world. Well, obviously that was a fictional scene. Dinner's over now. We managed to get rid of those people who didn't have diabetes, Todd and Brittany. So I'm here with my friends Steve and Jeremy to talk more about what just happened and what that's really like. And, I think one of the things that we saw that really lies at the heart of all these issues is the blaming and shaming that goes on about diabetes. And sometimes it's really subtle. But we know that when you're living every day with diabetes, and Jeremy, as you actually mentioned recently, it's a unique disease. We don't tend to blame and shame people for other kinds of chronic illnesses like we do with diabetes, in terms of the blaming and shaming about how much you're going to eat, what your blood sugars are. I don't know, what's this like for you guys? How do you deal with situations like that?
I would say, first of all, you guys can probably relate to almost every single scene that happened here. We didn't have to think too hard to come up with these like fictional scenes. And I told you guys this story. I remember when I was first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and had our first Thanksgiving. And this family friend brought over this cake, and she was very proud of it. She said, "This is a sugar-free cake. I kind of labored over this, and it's great." But it was covered in this like white powdered sugar. And I said, "Well, what's all that powdered sugar?" And she just said, "Oh, crap." So she had gone to all this work to make the sugar-free cake. She thought it would, work out for me. And then, just kind of messed up and put sugar all over it. So it's just a good example, because here's exactly what we were talking about. Someone who's trying to mean well, doesn't quite know the whole situation. And yet in her trying, now I feel guilty that all this work has gone into it. And it can just cause this like awkwardness. And last thing I'll say is that, especially in these kind of like holiday dinners, when you're living with diabetes, you can feel like the magnifying glass is really on you. There's all this high caloric food and everybody's just kind of looking at you like, are you going to eat that? Are you not going to eat it? Should they say something? Should they not? It can be this like weird level of tension. And you don't want to get up and have to give a speech at the beginning of the dinner about all these different things. So all your points about having conversations before or after is so important. So Steve, what do you think?
You know what? Just you telling your story, I thought of a story that I will never forget, is that when I was a teenager, I went to New York to visit my uncle. We're at the top of the World Trade Center in a restaurant called Windows of the World. Not there anymore, unfortunately. And my uncle yells out, like so loud, "What can my nephew eat? He's a diabetic," like really loud. And I just went like, oh God, people are looking at me. And then my daughter, Karina, she was like a little like 7-8-year-old kid. And I was giving a lecture at a museum, for doctors, and there was a buffet. And then I just walked by the dessert section and she yells out, "Dad, you're a diabetic. You can't eat that." And you know what? To this day, that really bugs me because, I have diabetes. I should know what to eat. I should know how to handle it. And, and adding on to the under the microscope is that one thing that I really don't deal well with is when people ask you your blood sugar and it's not good. And
well, a period, to be honest. I mean, if it's good, great. But like just asking you what your blood sugar is intrusive.
if it's really good, I like to tell them. But you know what happened? I told someone, "Oh, it's like 125. And they go, "Oh, isn't that high?" I go, "You can't win." Yeah, and I've actually lied. I've had over 200, too much cranberry sauce or something, and I just say, "Oh, it's good." Just because you don't want to, as you always say, it's just a number. I don't want them to think negative of my personality.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, you know what? To this day, I've had diabetes a long time. I still am not over that.
Yeah.
Well, when I remember days when back before there was CGM, and I'm sure this happened to you, how many times I've seen so many folks with diabetes, when they check their blood sugar, if it's out in public, like at a meal, what you do is you get your meter out and you go up like this to make sure no one else can actually see the number. And you do it almost automatically, again, because there's that sense of, this is private. I don't want to be under that magnifying glass. And this number shouldn't be a statement of my self-worth as a human being. You guys are trying to do the best you can anyway. You don't need to be reminded about this by others. And I think that's what's critical as well.
Yeah, I gotta tell a story too, because I never heard that story about your uncle.
Yeah.
Same almost exact thing happened to me. I was, probably 18. We went to go eat breakfast. We had pancakes. They brought over regular syrup. And my dad just calls out at the waiter, who's like on the other side of the restaurant. "My son can't have regular syrup. He's diabetic. We need the sugar-free stuff." And the same thing, just kind of like head down. And I will say though that like there usually is an argument, some kind of like, it's not a good scene, but it did like prompt a conversation later, it's kind of hard when you're 18 to have this conversation with your parents. I'm getting better as I'm getting older.
You'll get there.
Hey, like when these things happen, especially this comes up around low blood sugars a lot. when I'm low, which is concerning to other people, here's how I want you to react. You can be helpful by doing this or asking me, is this a bad low? Is this a mild low? How urgent is this? Because especially when you get low, you can really shut down. It's hard to speak. You really get kind of in denial about being low sometimes. So I think that's a really good example of practical, solutions. And when someone comes to you with genuine curiosity, how can I, help you? What is this like for you? Versus like, you should do this, you should do that. The whole conversation changes.
It's like story time because I remembering one of the most embarrassing thing. I was seeing a patient and I can remember this like it was yesterday, and I was getting low, but I didn't want to she had diabetes. I didn't want to admit that I was, not under good control and getting low, but I was so low, I was sweating. And she finally said to me, "Are you low?" And I don't know why I was so embarrassed. We all get low. But that was just embarrassing because I'm the doctor. I should be doing everything right. I should know everything about diabetes. And I was super embarrassed.
Yeah.
As you know, this is something I've written about a lot, which is what we call the I'm fine syndrome, which is that if you're low and someone says, "Are you low?" there's such automatic tendency to just go, "I'm fine." And again, it's because you don't want to be observed in that fashion. You want to be able to take care of it. Although I think what you're saying, Jeremy, is so important because that is the unique moment if you're having a serious low where you do want, I hope, it is going to be an opportunity for those people who care about you perhaps to do something more than just say, "Well, you've got this, man. It's up to you. I'll just back off." Something else may need to occur, but you want to make sure that, as you said, and I know we've talked about, you want to have that conversation ahead of time.
Yeah.
How to do it.
Like Brittany's cousin, he wants to create some type of relationship with us.
Yeah, like he's part of the crew.
The association.
Yeah,
My uncle died of diabetes. Bill and I, we cycle, right? We tell someone that we ride bikes and they go, "Oh yeah, I know someone was just killed on Pacific Coast Highway, right where you guys ride. It's amazing." You're like, "Thank you for telling us."
Yeah.
If any of you guys are cyclists, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. There is something unique about diabetes, again, that I'll meet people at parties or whatever. They know that I'm an endocrinologist. My life revolves around diabetes. I know a lot about diabetes.
I need to drink more with this conversation. Thank you.
And I will tell them I have diabetes. And more often than not, their first response is some type of advice or factual statement to me, who, again, this is my career. I don't know everything, but I tend to know more than kind of a lay person. And they'll always say, "Oh, diabetes, don't you know that if you just, lose some weight, you can stop taking insulin?" Or something just kind of...
Do you know there's a moss growing on a tree in the Amazon that cures diabetes?
There's a cure, and there's it's all pharmaceutical companies are out to get us and, whatever. But it's interesting that, again, if I said I had some other disease, I don't think you get that response. It's so intertwined, diabetes is, with lifestyle and food and exercise, that people think that they have some kind of, solution to it. And it's odd.
Well, but I don't know about that part of it, though. I mean, there is this peculiar way in which people are trying to help. But there's something about, for having lived so long with diabetes, and that sort of underlying being blamed and shamed a lot, it's extra annoying, right? I mean, if you had arthritis and someone said, "Hey, did you hear about this possible new intervention?" You might find that interesting. But with diabetes, it's just annoying.
One thing that really hurts my feelings, and no one means anything by it, but we see different conferences, TCOYD, people get up on the stage or just conversation, and they're so proud that they don't have any complications. So here I am with complications, and it really makes me feel bad. And I actually said something once to another doctor with type 1, not Jeremy, and I just said, "Listen, when you brag like that, it makes us folks with complications feel bad." And I don't really talk about that too much, but that bothers me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, hang in there, bud. Well, I think that the arthritis thing is really interesting, because if you say, "I have bad arthritis and my knee hurts," people will say to you, "Gosh, that must be difficult to have arthritis. That sucks. Arthritis sucks." But if you say, "My blood sugar is high," it's you suck. This is your problem.
Yeah.
You did it. You ate the wrong thing. You didn't take the right medication. What's wrong with you? Not diabetes is tough. It's some kind of judgment on you. And I think that's why it kind of bleeds over into all these judgmental type places.
And I think judgment is the perfect word. I go back to the idea of this holiday dinner, and feeling like you're being under the magnifying glass, being observed. Are you eating too much? Or what are you doing? Maybe you shouldn't have that. I just want to say one thing about holiday dinners, especially Thanksgiving dinners. If you're having a typical Thanksgiving dinner with your family, whether you have diabetes or not, whatever you're eating is probably messed up, okay? So it isn't just folks with diabetes, it's all of us. And I think we forget about that as well. Again, it's that magnifying glass that makes it so much worse.
Yeah, and I want to say that these relationships, they do improve. I think your story of like, you didn't know how to act when, you had a dessert and diabetes, and, this is obviously your profession now, you're teaching others how to deal with this, this is a learning curve. And people can come into it not meaning, harm or anything, but they can say the wrong thing. And we obviously know Todd and Brittany very well in real life, and we have trained them now, and we have, fantastic relations with them. But it takes some work. You can't just assume that if somebody says something like that, they're a bad person or whatever. Like, it's actually sometimes quite the opposite. And just having these conversations, as you kept saying, is awkward in of itself, but it's worth it to avoid, perpetual just kind of discontent.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, Bill, along with his colleagues at the Behavioral Diabetes Institute, have etiquette cards. And if you look into the virtual health fair in the BDI booth, then you'll be able to download it there.
Etiquette cards for people who don't have diabetes, of course, because that's what, for those of you who have diabetes, you want to be able to hand those cards to them. Again, they're somewhat funny. The idea is to open up, again, a conversation, because odds are pretty good when you hear these annoying comments, your loved ones mean well. They would like to be helpful, and they're just messing up because they don't know what to do.
Brittany's worked for TCOYD for almost 4 years now. First thing I'm going to do on Monday is fire her. I'm serious. She's out.
Well, Bill, Steve, that was awesome. I guess the only thing we have left to do now is actually clean up.
Freeze. Oh my. If it's time to clean up, it's my cue to leave. Thanks, everybody. Unfreeze.
Polonsky!